So we've been using the Rodecaster Pro II audio interface for a little over a month now at Creative Storehouse. And more specifically, we've been using it for the Creative Storehouse Podcast. But today I will be reviewing this product. So let's get into it. I think the best way to actually break this whole thing down is into 4 components, which is essentially the inputs, outputs, the screen, the mixer, as well as the smart pads. So firstly, they have 4 input and output jacks. They also have 2 output jacks for external monitors. So that is specifically for having student monitors if you want to use them. But we use the input jacks for XLRs, which is for the mics that I'm using right now. Normally when we have guests on the podcast, we can have 4 of them at once, as well as external control for each headphone. I think what I love about this the most is that the color actually just matches the input, so you are aware of which one you're using. I'm using input 1 right now, which is this pink, and I can control my output, so what I hear, which is myself, on this channel. So that's how I control it. One of the great features on this audio interface is the touch screen. I think this is really, really user-friendly. So in terms of figuring out how to record, it's all here. So in terms of the settings, you want to set your outputs for your headphones, for your monitors that you want to use. Within the system, we have a Bluetooth option. So in the studio, when we do record the Creative Storehouse podcast, we actually have a pair of Bluetooth speakers that are on standby. So when the podcast is starting, everyone is able to hear the soundtrack of the podcast. And once they hear that, they know that, okay, we got to silence our phones. We know that the show is going to start. So we have really upped our game with the podcast itself with this interface. Besides that, you can see the mixing board over here, which is really, really easy to use. Everything else is muted because I'm not using any of those. These are for the 4 inputs. For anyone who isn't sure, but if I lower it, my volume gets a bit lower. And then if I raise it a bit, you can hear my voice a bit clearer. And with that, we'll be getting into the smart pads, okay? These smart pads, I think the only way to see it is it really looks like a DJ setup. And I think it's really great because it has a lot of options for different sounds and it's all customizable. So in any awkward situation, you can add and customize specific ads and little snippets you want to use, such as little advertisements that we may have added in here. And I think overall, it's really, really just really easy to use. I'm going to be talking a bit more about the audio processing. So specifically, they use Revolution preamps as well as Aphex processing. Specifically for the Shure SM7B, they would actually ask you to use a cloud lifter. But with the Revolution preamp, it is actually not necessary, as well as Aphex processing. A lot of the processing happens within this audio interface. So it really saves me a lot of time with editing because everything is happening within the audio interface. And from my side, it comes over to me and editing just involves a bit of chopping up here and there. And it really saves me a lot of time with the EQ process, the compression process, anything to make the audio sound better. It already does it on its own. And that wraps up my review for the Rodecaster Pro II audio interface. If you have any questions, be sure to drop a comment down below. We'd love to see what you have to say about it. And be sure to subscribe and we'll catch you in the next one.